In this section, we will learn how to create a scatter plots. In the previous section, we just worked with the COVID-19 data set in the South Carolina and the different counties that we had. But here we will work with the breast cancer data set that we could create a scatter plot, basically plot uh, various variables versus each other, and also color the points of this scatter plot based on the two different groups of normal and cancerous cells that we have. So in order to see the workshop materials, click on learning how to create a scatter plots. As I said, you need to load or upload the breast cancer data.csv that you downloaded in the first section of these videos into your notebook. And then in comparison to the previous charts or bar charts that we had, here you need to change the X and Y axis, because in comparison to the previous ones that we had the bar chart, here we want to create the scatter plots. So the scatter plots are created based on points, or just a scatter number of points that we have in a chart. So the x-axis is defined like this, and the y-axis also is defined here. Note that we give the number of the variables that we want to use for the scatter plot later on in a column array that we want to use for the name of the variables. But here we just define the generic format of the x and y axis and how it's defined based on these columns length, for example, the number of the variables that we want to use for the visualization. Here we use 4 variables, so we would have a matrix of the scatter plots, 4 by 4 matrix of the scatter plots finally, and we just plot each of these variables versus other one. So totally we would have 16 scatter plots at the end. The scales also are defined like this based on the size and padding that we defined. And also we have an interaction here in our scatter plot to just choose some of the points interactively. So you just create a dashboard for you. You can just choose some of the points and see how those points are located in the other scatter plots. Basically you have 16 scatter plots, but in each of them, if you choose some of the points in the other plots, also those points will be highlighted. So for example, if you want to see the points that have high values of some variables, you would find out those points have, for example, lower values in other scatter plots. So that just brings more interactivity into your visualization. So this brush is the main interaction function that we define here. You can just go through it in the notebook or in the workshop material here. And finally, we would have this visualization of a scatter plot. As I said, we chose to plot the mean radius, mean perimeter, mean smoothness, and mean concavity. But you could just change the name of these variables in the notebook and have more visualization based on different variables. Here, the color, the blue and the orange, shows two different cases that we have for the points which are the normal and cancerous cells. And here, if we interactively choose some of the points, those corresponding points are also selected in other scatter plots that we have. So it just brings more interactivity when you want to choose some of the points and see how those points are located in other scatter plots. So finally, I go to the notebook here. Similar to the first one, we just load the D3.js package. Make sure that you just uploaded the file. If you click here and see the attachment, we have the breast cancer data.csv. And make sure you loaded the D3.js. You have some attributes for the padding, size of the bar chart, its width, and other name of the columns that or the name of the variables that we use for the scatter plots. Then, similar to the previous one, we just loaded the data, the breast cancer data that we just uploaded here. It just loaded into a variable named data based on the CSV parse function. Then we define the x and y axis and also the scale x and y scales. Then we define the brush function here to just have interactivity over the scatter plots. And finally, we have the scatter plot itself. Similar to the previous bar charts that we have, we create a SVG with just the empty image based on the widths and heights that you uh, created. Then you have some circles that you want to use for the scatter plots. You define the x and y axis, and also you just have that brush transformation or brush interactivity, and finally you just plot the data here. So that's the final function that just plots this scatter plot for us. So here also you have the interaction. You could select some of the points and see how those points are located in different bar charts. But note that you can change the this name of the variables: mean radius, mean perimeter, mean smoothness, and mean concavity, which I just encourage you to change that and see how the scatter plot would change after changing the name of the variable. So it just brings you more insight about what's inside the data set. So that's the final uh, notebook which is shared with you that you can use or follow for instruction of the material in this section for creating the scatter plots. Thank you.